everybody, and welcome to Behind Closed Doors, what it really takes for your business to hit seven figures or get that first customer or that first $1,000 or whatever. What it really takes for you to hit the milestones that you have laid out in front of you. Today, I am honored to have the amazing Jennifer Crego with us from Type B Studio. Jen, did I say that right or wrong? Crego?
You said it right. You got it.
I mean, I've known Jen for a while, and I still worry that my accent butchers the name. So one of the reasons that I'm so excited is because I met Jen probably last year at some point, and I have been blown away by her knowledge of not just websites, but her knowledge of Google Analytics, her knowledge of SEO, and we're not going to dive too deep in that today because it would be super technical and my head might explode. But I do want to have a conversation today about all of the things that can go on behind the door of your website to help you be successful. So, Jen, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. Tell everybody where you're located.
I'm in Bonnie Lake, Washington, which is just outside of Seattle.
Oh, is it raining there?
Most often, yes. Right now, we're probably having that 10-minute break. That's not.
Yeah, that's the stereotypical Seattle thing, right? So, Jen, tell us in your words what you do.
With my team, we build websites for small businesses. So we do the design, the development, the branding that goes into the websites. We kind of take care of our clients in a very comprehensive way. So it's not just about getting a website up that looks pretty, but about making a website that really works effectively to meet their business goals.
And what does that mean? So when I was starting out, and still I fall into this, you all know if you followed me for any amount of time, I changed my website like I change hairstyles, which is a lot. So what does it mean that to have a website that works effectively towards their business goals? What's the difference between a pretty website and one that works effectively?
Sure. Well, there are a lot of very attractive websites out there that you might hear from people that say things like, well, you know, my website's up, but I'm not getting the traction that I expect, or people aren't booking calls with me, or, you know, just different things like that, that their business isn't getting the traction that they want it to. And if you look at their website, a lot of times it's just little things that can be off. It might be that they just haven't put strategy behind their website design. They've put aesthetics behind their website design.
Yeah. So this is something that I just learned about a year ago, and I'm still learning, and I finally have accepted that I don't want to know anymore. I just want somebody to do it for me, because the strategy behind your website can be so involved, right?
Yes, extremely.
This is something I learned from Laura Husson. She talks a lot about user experience and about, you know, where they land on your page and what happens. And I always think about it. I think a lot of business owners do who run an online business. Well, they come to my homepage first, and then they go to, you know, the About Me page, and then the Work With Me page. And Laura's like, they're probably not landing on your homepage first. They're probably coming to a blog page. I'm like, of course they are, right? Of course they are. And so what's the strategy to get them from the blog to the next page? And there's all this analytical thought process that goes into it that I have never thought of before. So if you had to guess, and I don't know that, not had to guess, in your opinion, what's the biggest mistake that you see people make when they're considering aesthetics over strategy?
They think about what they think looks good rather than how they want their website visitors to feel.
Okay, great. And so are you able to, as an expert, are you able to look at a website and tell that, or do you really need to get into a conversation with the person to see how the website's performing, or is it a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
There are some websites that I can go to, and it's just, some are a little bit obvious that they're just not quite up to the level that we would want them to be at. So those are pretty obvious. But the ones that they look really nice, but we just need to get in a little bit deeper and find out about the client, the website visitor, and get a little bit more information that way. That does take a little bit more.
Great. And so what is the thing that shocks you the most that we don't know that we should know?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. I hate to say it, but Google Analytics.
Great. So that's exactly where I want to go next. So it's funny because I was told by an advisor one time, and I don't know if this was smart or not. It doesn't matter. But I was told, oh, don't worry about that. It was probably dumb, actually, now that I'm about to say it. Don't worry about that till later. You're not big enough to worry about that. And I really wish that I had taken the time to learn some about analytics and some about SEO as well, which are not the same thing, by the way, when I had the time. When I was looking, when I was hungry for knowledge, rather than being told, oh, don't do that now, that's a waste of time. Because now I don't have the time to learn. And it's embarrassing because someone said to me recently, well, what do your analytics say? And I said, I have no idea. I have no idea. So I agree. I think that understanding your analytics, at least knowing from your analytics, and tell me if this is right, you can tell things like where your visitors are coming from, right? How they're finding you.
Yep. Very important.
Yeah. That would be important because let's say they're coming to you from a guest blog that you did for, I don't know, Judy Show. That's my mom. She doesn't have a website. But you might want to guest blog for her again or see what you can do for her community. So it's very important to know where your customers are coming from.
Yep.
So what other types of things, don't tell me how, but like what other types of things can you learn from Google Analytics?
You can learn what your most popular posts are.
Okay.
So you can find out, for example, if one post type tends to be more popular than something else, then write more of that kind of posts.
Absolutely.
You can see if your visitors are on desktop or mobile. So that's not something that I say everyone should look at on a regular basis, but at least one time, go look at that. That way, if you haven't upgraded to a newer site in the last few years and you're still rocking an older site that's not responsive, but you see that maybe 70% of the visitors to your website are on mobile devices, then you know that you have a big problem. On the other hand, if you see that 20% are on mobile devices, which probably isn't going to happen, but let's say it did, then you would be able to prioritize, getting a responsive website in a different order than you would if 70% of your visitors are on mobile devices, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And the mobile thing got huge. I mean, it's been getting huge, but it got huge last year with whatever Google did.
Wow.
They did something about, explain that to us.
Yeah, so Google, basically what they did was they now give preference to websites that are mobile. So if before you would rank the same or just above a website that that was ranking for the same keywords that you were, and the other site is responsive but your site isn't, then your site is now getting pushed further and further down the search results than this other website. And that's very, very important because we found that people who search, they do, any keyword that they search, most of us would rather type in a new search keyword than to go to page 2.
Interesting.
Right.
So let me ask this. So I'll tell a funny story here. I had somebody one time who we were having dinner in, I think, Nashville, Tennessee, and it was it was my family and my parents' best friends, and it was I don't know, maybe 12 or 13 of us. And we were at this place at good old Southern cooking, like fried chicken. And we'd never been there before, but we'd heard about it. And so it was like at a table where you sat with other people, which I think is pretty common in some cities, but it's not super common where I'm from. Like this family dining with strangers, huge picnic tables. It was really Southern. And you pass around the greens and all that stuff. And so me, being the most social one, got picked to sit by the strangers. And so they're asking, you know, what we do and blah, blah, all those, you know, get to know you questions. And later, it was in an old Southern mansion, and I was taking Hallie Anna around to see all the rooms. And when I came back, the man said, you know, I got a suggestion for you. And I'm thinking, oh, God. Well, I mean, I was pretty arrogant in my head, actually, if I'm being honest. What could this man possibly know about an online business? He held up his phone, and he said, you might want a picture of yourself on your homepage. And I was like, I have a picture of myself. But on my mobile version, no picture showed up. I still don't think one shows up. And I was like, yeah, I might want a picture of myself on my homepage. Thank you, kind sir. So it's really, really important to look at how your blogs appear on mobile, how they appear, because I read blogs on mobile all the time, right? I mean, you need to think about those things. Keywords. Every time I hear the word keywords, I want to roll my eyes. I don't know why, but I do. Define what keywords means.
So keywords are simply the words that people would type into the search bar.
Okay. So like if I was looking for a website designer, I might type in website design, online business.
Yes.
And those, okay. So how do you begin to figure out what your keywords are?
There are tools, but really, if you're writing your copy for your ideal client, forget about the tools. Just write for your client, write for your customers, write for your audience, and the keywords, they'll evolve. They will show up.
Okay, and so that's one of the things that I tell my customers all the time is, yes, there are wonderful copywriters out there, but in the beginning, I want you to get used to writing your own copy, because there will be times when you can't afford a copywriter, because there will be times when you get this great idea in the shower or whatever. I don't know why my ideas always come in the shower. Probably that's the only place I'm quiet. But in the shower, and you're going to want to like crank out an email and crank out a promotion. And if you don't know how to write copy, you can't. So here's another reason, because it's going to make your keywords become more clear to you. Mm-hmm. So how many keywords should we have roughly? Is there a certain number?
No, I mean, you can really have a ton, but if you think of it, it's really basically one keyword per page.
Okay.
And even one keyword per blog post, but it can be variations of the same keyword, so whether it's plural or not plural, or,
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So here's my advice for you. If you want to know more about Google Analytics, contact Jen, because she is the person to know. Like once it gets too technical, I'm like, oh, seriously, are we going to talk about plural or not plural? Because I'm out. Tap out. So tell me the difference between SEO, search engine optimization, and Google Analytics.
Well, search engine optimization, that's optimizing your site in how it comes up in the organic search results in Google or Bing. Google Analytics is simply a tool that helps us work on that.
Okay, so Google Analytics helps us make our SEO perhaps a little bit more robust, a little bit more effective.
Exactly.
So is there a stage that is too early to work on SEO, in your opinion, or should you begin doing that immediately?
I think that as soon as you have your website live, you can start working on it. But it's one of those things that you have to go gradually. You don't want to just do everything all at once, and you can throw up some red flags to Google if you're doing everything all at once and going from 0 to 100 in 2 days.
Yeah.
So take time doing it. But the most important thing is, don't think that you have to learn everything about Google Analytics immediately to get the benefits of it. Just, Google Analytics was designed for, complex online marketing. For most of us, it's way more than we'll ever need. So just need to focus on the few things that you need.
So I really, there are very few things that I think, given our desire and our time, there are very few things which I believe we're unable to figure out on our own. Selling is one of those things that I think people need some guidance on if they haven't sold before, because it's completely foreign to them. I mean, I'm all about help in every area. Like, I would love to have a full-time staff of people like a life coach, a nutritionist, whatever. I kind of do have all these things. I'm very fortunate. But so I am not at all saying don't hire, because I'm a big believer in any way that you can add help or ease to your life. Why would you not do that? However, in the online business world, there's so many great offers out there. There's so many offers out there. And when we have to think like business women and strategically decide where to spend our money, I wish I had strategically decided years ago to spend money on learning this, or at least hiring someone like Jen and her team who understands and gets this. It's something that we will do moving forward. But before we do that, I've even asked Jen to come in and teach to my team. So we don't know anything on my team beyond Google Analytics is something that helps you. So I need to understand a little bit more about that. So I don't often give you recommendations about where to spend your money, quite frankly, because it's your money. But if you want to run a successful online business and you talk about behind closed doors and what goes on with the big businesses that reach 7 figures and beyond, at some point, you're going to have to address this. Maybe you get to 7 figures on your own by bootstrapping it. I don't know if that's the smartest thing or not. Probably not. Just about damn near killed me. But at some point, you'll address it. And we're addressing it now. If we'd addressed it, 2 years earlier, we'd be a lot further along. So write that down. Take that from my expertise, from my journey. This needs to be not an if, but when. This is something you need to do, whether it's with Jen or not. And I get nothing for telling you this. I don't do affiliates, but Jen brings a lot of great points. This is not something you're just going to know. You're not going to learn it through osmosis, right?
Right.
Great. So let's say that let's give people a checklist, if you will, of when to start. So you don't want to go from 0 to 60 or whatever and throw up red flags to Google. So what are some things that you should have in place before you begin to really think about investing this and reaping the reward? Obviously, a website, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are there other things that you want to have in place?
For SEO in general, if you have a WordPress website, I would get the WordPress all-in-one Yoast.
Yeah. Plugin thingy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Use that plugin. It makes it really easy. So use that. Follow they really walk you through it. So just use that. It makes it really easy.
Yeah, we've got that plugin. I don't know how to use it. I don't think anybody on my team knows how to use it, but we've got it. So step number 1 is complete. That's what I was going to say. Like, don't let this be like one of your courses. Get it. Take an extra 30 minutes to learn how to use it so that you do it effectively, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
And they have good documentation too on how to use it, and it's free. So I am a fan of free. So if it does a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious about your entrepreneurial, that's a hard word to say, journey, about your journey into entrepreneurship. What did you do before this? This is a fascinating story, actually. I'm not curious, I know, but this is fascinating. Tell us what you did before this, because you kind of always been playing around in this area, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit. So I just started my business in 2014. Before that, I was the director of business development for an online retailer for just over 10 years. I was with the company for about 12 years. Great company. I enjoyed it very much until I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way to say it, I think. You know, it doesn't always have to be from the beginning. This is a curse to my death. It can be. I enjoyed it very much until I didn't. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was a fantastic experience. However, at the end, it was one of those situations where I would be out in the car kind of psyching myself up like, yeah, I can do this. I can get through one more day. I can get through one more day. So it was definitely time to start my own business. And I had been doing websites for friends and my own blogs just for fun. And it was really one of those things that I was thinking, like, what kind of a business could I do? What should I do? What should I do? And, you know, hiring coaches, like, what should I do? And all this time still creating websites for free, for fun. And, you know, it was one of those, like, well, it's right under your nose. So yeah, it was, before that, I actually, I had my own business years ago. I grew up in small business. I was slinging pizzas for my parents' pizza place when I was 10. Grew up there, started my own candle business when I was in my 20s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I've had the entrepreneurial bug, I think, forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because I bought a bike. I know you're thinking, what does a bike have to do with any of this? But I got a bike and I rode it yesterday and I rode it around the neighborhood. There's this little girl who comes up to my knees, literally, and she's got a juice stand, not a lemonade stand, but a juice and snack stand. And so I stop and I say, how much is the juice? She says, a quarter or two. And I say, okay, well, I'll be back. So I came home, I got $1. I go back. I kid you not. The kid is 4.5 because I asked. I parked my bike, I put the kickstand down. She meets me at the front of her yard, extends her hand and says her name and says, nice to meet you. What's your name? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid knows how to sell. And she says, you must be hot on this hot day riding your bike. Would you like some juice? And I'm like, sure. Which one would you like? Okay, so we go through all this. I get back on the bike. I'm leaving. She says, you might be tired. Do you need a snack? I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. But I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, this kid has got the entrepreneurial bug, definitely, right?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, she had me when she stuck out her hand and said, I'm Kendrick. Nice to meet you. What's your name? I was like, oh my God.
Awesome.
It's going to change the world. So I know what you mean about having that entrepreneurial bug. It's also funny, Jim, because I read a book about 4 times when I was starting my own business called Millionaire Message. I think it's by Brendon Burchard. It's a great book if you all haven't read it. But he talks about in there, and I think Danielle LaPorte talks about this too in Fire Starter sessions, about what do people naturally ask you to do for free? You know, like when you're trying to decide what business to start. And I remember saying, well, people ask me about my clothes, and people ask me like about motivation things, and people didn't ask me a lot about selling, but I was pretty closed off to that. I had shut a door and was done with selling. Once I opened that door back up, floodgates of sales questions began to come in, and I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is what this means. I mean, I wasn't quite that smart. Jenny, she had to point it out to me, but then I realized people everywhere are asking me about this, you know? And so I think that it was right there under my nose, kind of like what you say as well. It's right there under your nose and you don't even know it. I remember filling out things like, what do you like to do for fun? Or, like, I like to read and shop. Can I get paid to do that?
Right.
I need to be a personal shopper and I need to do this. And I've tried everything. Another story for another time. But I get it, right there under your nose. But I'm curious about biz dev. So you mentioned you worked in business development for 10 years, 12 years for a company, 10 years in biz dev. What do you bring from business development into this world that allows you to be successful? Something that maybe you wouldn't traditionally hear, or do you bring anything that you would traditionally hear?
Yeah, so business development, at least in the online retail world, it was a lot of well, it was the marriage of a lot of different areas. So it's where marketing meets sales, meets merchandising and IT processes, just everything. So where that comes together, and even promotion and working with other business owners. So just the whole thing, it's that spot, that area where it comes together. That's what I bring to this, that working in business development online with this multi-million-dollar company, that's what it gave me to do in my own business.
Yeah, I would imagine that, and certainly tell me where I'm wrong, but I would imagine that you were able to look at things a little bit differently as well, having worked for a company like that. I would imagine that you have some pretty creative ideas about how to attract business, go out and find business. I would imagine that there are things that you've done in your other job that we just haven't thought of yet. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that definitely a lot of times I do bring a different perspective because it's my background was really the mainstream kind of, we were so kind of, engulfed in the coaching world, the online business world, but really the mainstream retail, I mean, you can't get much more mainstream than retail.
No, it's interesting. Erica Learmark said to me one time, I asked her a question, it was last year, I asked her a question about how to get to $1 million. And she said, you've got to start looking outside of the coaching industry. Like, you've got this mastered, but you need to look outside the coaching industry, find a business that you love, follow them, watch how they sell, watch what they do, and I'm not sure that I did that really well, but it's always been in the back of my mind. And one of the things that I'm actually going to talk about today with my clients is about if you were opening up a brick and mortar business, what would your plan be to get people in? Because you know, let's say that you're opening up a brick and mortar business, not necessarily in a high traffic area. What's your plan to get people in? Is it flyers? Is it, and what I've realized is we kind of cast a net. What we should be doing is casting a net, getting as many people in as possible. And then we can weed out the people that aren't good for us, right? That aren't the right customer, that aren't the right whatever. But we try to narrow it down so specifically, so early, that I think sometimes we do ourselves a disservice. Like, we only go into groups where our ideal customer is. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not your ideal customer today, but I could be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I just feel like we need to cast that net a little bit wider. And I also feel like SEO, Google Analytics allows you to do that intelligently.
Yes.
So let's say I'm searching for high-risk pregnancy. And, the first 4 things that come up, I'm going to click on. The thing on page 7, I'm not going to click on unless I'm highly motivated.
Yeah, no.
I have gone to page 7 before, but I was probably looking for a fantastic pair of shoes that I couldn't find. In other words, I was highly motivated.
That's very unusual.
Yeah. So I think that you would tell, if you were opening a brick and mortar, you would tell as many people as possible. You would get the word out as many places as possible. And SEO allows you to do that strategically.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody. You probably know what's coming, but if my 7-year-old daughter were standing here, and your child's not 7, but as a child, what is one piece? You can only give them one piece of advice, one piece of life advice. What would that be?
That you can accomplish anything that you're willing to work hard enough to get.
Whoa, I love it. I've got chills all over my body. That ties together 2 of the most important components, I believe, in being successful at anything. Believing, right? Mm-hmm. And working for it.
Yeah.
I wish that you could just drop out of the sky, but it doesn't. So that's like when Hallie Anna said she wanted to be a childhood actress, and when did we get her agent? I said, sweetheart, it doesn't work like that. Like, we've got to do some prelim work in order for you to get an agent. She didn't want to do the work. Like, yeah, that's the problem. I see this all the time. Welcome to my world. Okay, yeah. And so to all of the people listening or watching, who could be in your shoes where you were a year ago, or maybe even longer than a year ago? Maybe they're still working a job that's been good until it's not. What's one piece of advice you would give them?
Look for the excuses.
Yeah.
Like that you're saying, the excuses that are keeping you from moving forward. You might be surprised. I know I have been.
Yeah. I will tell you, I was at a pharmaceutical meeting it was before Hallianna was born. So 2000, I don't know, 6 maybe. And I need to find the quote, but our manager put up, gosh, it was earlier than that. I think it was like, it doesn't matter. Our manager put up a quote about excuses. And I remember thinking, but sometimes those excuses are true. Like sometimes the office really won't see reps. Or sometimes my drug isn't covered by formulary. And what I realized is those are excuses too, right? Because the office is seeing somebody. And there are plenty of drugs that aren't covered by formulary that get written. So I was so smart, or whatever, stupid, that I convinced myself that my excuses were, I was the exception. Sometimes those things are true. Sometimes I can't get back. No, that was an excuse.
Right.
If I'd gotten a little creative, worked a little bit harder, I probably could have gotten back. So yeah, I always say, once you identify your limiting beliefs, your mind crack, the things that your excuses, the things that prevent you from going forward, your head gets a little bit smarter and makes them just a little bit harder or more difficult to overcome or to recognize. Yeah. And so I think that's great. I think that, look for your excuses. You might be surprised what comes up. Love it.
And they just change over time too. I mean, really, they morph. So it's an ongoing.
It is.
Exercise. Yeah.
It is. There is a thing that they do at Hallianna School, and they probably do it at a lot of schools, called Fill Your Bucket. Have you heard of this, Jim? So and it's a way to teach emotional intelligence. And I mean, Hallianna's in 2nd grade. But basically you can fill your bucket with, if somebody's good to you, gives you a compliment, does something nice for you, they fill your bucket. And then you can empty your bucket if somebody's mean to you or whatever. And everybody loves this. And I hate it. Because, and I'm sorry, no disrespect to the person, I'm sure you aren't watching this, but the person who created this, because it makes the kid subject to someone making them feel good about themselves or allowing someone to feel poorly about themselves, right? Like if this person dumps your bucket, Hallianna came home crying one day and said, such and such dumped my bucket. And I said, so? I mean, and what I realize is her thoughts are changing over time about what makes her happy, what doesn't, and now, anyway, I'm getting off on a different tangent, but it does, they morph. And so now Hallianna believes somebody's got to fill her bucket for her to feel amazing. And when she feels like crap, somebody dumps her bucket. I'm like, no, that's the wrong thing to think. So I'm trying to go in and teach her mind something else. And I'm like, no, you're responsible. Anyway, I should cut this part out of the interview. Okay, so Jen, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your expertise. And I think this is a topic that, analytics, SEO, it's not super sexy. I mean, it's not. It's just like, numbers are not super sexy and finance isn't super sexy. But making money is super sexy.
That is.
Being able to take your family on a Disney cruise at the drop of a hat is super sexy. Being able to knock off on Friday and say, yeah, I'm done for the week, I'm going to do something for myself or give back to charity is super sexy. And these are the steps you have to take. This is where the work comes in, right, that you talked about. So some people would say Sally's not super sexy, but they're all steps you have to take to get there. So Jen Crego, you can find her at, it's not live yet, is it?
It is live as of this video. It's typebstudio.com.
Yeah! So excited. She's been doing a little refresh to her own site. So typebstudio.com. Jen Crego. If you need any more information, feel free to shoot us an email and I will put you in contact. She's amazing. She's a name to remember. Write it down. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kendrick.
All right. Until next time on Behind Closed Doors, what it really takes to hit 7 figures or that aggressive goal in your business. I believe in you, and I believe in your business. If a redneck from Sweetwater, Tennessee can do this, so can you. Bye.